So the human condition is such that we are constantly longing for something that we feel we do not have. We constantly feel that where we are is where God, the real self, the true self, reality, we see these as one thing, that somehow the place that we are is not the place where wholeness is to be found. So there's this constant questing to get someplace else where we believe the good stuff can be found, someplace else where we believe there we'll be at peace, there we'll feel connected, there we'll feel whole. And this work addresses it very differently. This work has a fundamental understanding that if we can actually learn to stand still where we are, God enters in. Or rather, the wholeness that's already here reveals itself. And that it's actually our questing to get someplace else which keeps us in this constant looping of questing and self-improving in such a way that we stay constantly in the seeking mode and never the finding. Never finding, truly finding what we seek. And that's what this work is fundamentally about.
Life is around me. Let me sing hallelujah.
Awakening means just that, awakening. Awakening to what is here. Awakening to life as it is. Awakening to what's real. And what's real, for most of us, is that we suffer. We suffer from feeling separate. We suffer from not knowing what it means to be whole. We suffer from not knowing how to be kind to ourselves. We suffer in many small ways as well as large ways. So what really happens is that we need to awaken to that suffering and many different configurations that it takes. So we awaken in one area. For instance, we discover that we're suffering in a particular argument we keep having with our spouse. Then we discover, there are connections to that to do with our mothers or our fathers, or we discover there are other connections to it. So these connections, these complex relationships begin to reveal themselves. And so we think, oh my God, my suffering's worse. It's, the world's coming to an end. My suffering is worse. When really it's not worse. It's just that before it was invisible to you and controlled you, by the way. Controlled you every day of your life because you were constantly walking around it, trying to avoid that landmine that caused you suffering. And now you're awake to it. But the paradox is, unless we're awake to it, we cannot bring it in to true relationship and the relationship of healing and the relationship of wholeness. In order for things to return to life, they actually have to come out of the dead, frozen state they're in. As long as they're in this dead, frozen state, they control us, and we may think we're not suffering, but the only way we can think that is if we keep pretending they're behind us. Keep it back there. But that means life gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And so that you can keep on avoiding that territory.
Life is around me. Let me sing hallelujah. Life.
When we learn to embrace who we are, as we are, to heal and awaken, life and death are not so divided in the way that we divide them. On the one hand, we died. We have a physical form. The physical form comes into life. The physical form ends. That's true. But is there life after death is not just something that we discover when we die, nor is it something that we have to do in terms of seeing dead people, so to speak. It's an interesting thing. Everything is right here. There is no other place that we go. There is no other place that there will find, heaven. These are these different versions of what it will look like. Consciousness life. It's all here. So in a certain sense, there's no such thing as death. Because consciousness is continually changing. It's continually moving. So you could say there's constant death and there's constant rebirth, because there is in life itself. We know that we go through these many different changes, and the who that we are now, so to speak, the person that we are now, is not the same person we were 5 years ago. If we really understand that movement from the person that we were then to the person that we are now, you're already having life after death. Because you went through a certain kind of death of the personality and came into a different life, a different kind of wholeness. So is it possible to be in touch with other beings who have passed from a physical form? Yes. Is it possible to be awake to them and their journey? Yes. What's also true is that we limit ourselves to do with our ideas of life and death, because we often think that when Aunt Susie died, Aunt Susie will be the same being that she was. She's not. No more than she was the same being 5 years before she died. The being is constantly changing. That's the amazing thing, where these dynamic, ever-changing processes of being, and we're not static, we're not fixed in the way that we believe ourselves to be. So yes, we can be awake to beings who are not in a physical form, but it's not exactly in the way that we think that it is.
The long journey home has started. I've been parted from you so long.
Healing and awakening are fundamentally one thing. People talk about awakening experiences they have where they suddenly see the oneness of all of life, and they get how everything is one thing, and they get that. Then the question I have is, can they live it? To live an awakening life means you have to be continually healing. Because we all have ways that we divide and separate, including the fact that we can have these awakening experiences, and then we demand that everyone match our idea of oneness. We can demand that everyone have this sense of purity, this sense that everything is one, so why do we have difference? Everything is one, so why do we fight? Everything is one, so why can't we just sit and chant and sing? Why can't we be friends? So that's the movement that can happen when people talk about having an awakening experience. The struggle with that is it only creates separation. It only takes you out of life. It doesn't take you into life. Healing and awakening means that you move into life. You're not separate. You're not more perfect. You're not more pure. You're not more this than another person. You're another person. And truly, if we're going to heal and awaken, then we need to learn what it means to develop true kindness and compassion for ourselves, the imperfect nature of this world, which paradoxically has within it great perfection.
There's only one mind, blessed be, and one heart. May blessings be in all our hands and in all our...
From the perspective of the healee or the client, the friend who's walked in the door, it can look similar to a psychotherapy session, meaning that you're talking about issues that are going on with you, discussions, you're naming things, whether they're physical or emotional, the difficulties that are going on in your life, where you are. So it at first can resemble a psychotherapy session. But the diagnostic process of non-dual healing is very different, because rather than narrowing and then reaching a place where you come to a healing or a diagnosis, it actually broadens. It opens. It begins to include many different things. So the healing session is such that the healer will ask a number of different questions. You'll begin to unfold things. Often someone comes with wanting to discuss one thing and it unfolds to someplace else. So there's this movement that happens. that is really a movement of wholeness, in which more and more and more is included, not as in gathering more material, it's not exactly that, it's that you're getting a sense of the greater whole of what's happening, which is both includes the fundamental things and things that perhaps you didn't think were as fundamental. So you go through this diagnostic process and this diagnostic journey. And then there's a healing that happens after that. The diagnostic process in itself is a healing because it is part of the journey of wholeness. It's a part of a journey in which, again, more of the person, more of the real, if you will, is included. But then there's a healing. And the healing can be anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. And the healing is usually a hands-on healing if it's being done in person. If it's being done in person, they may lie down on a table, massage-type table, and then you do this healing. You'll be doing a healing and it has to do with, again, the Etz Haim, or the Tree of Life that you've learned. Many of these healings, there are some healings that are not that, based on the Tree of Life. And then there's usually a few talk for a few minutes after that.
God of light, help me live, help me live, help me live.
And what we look for is a certain maturity. And strangely enough, that maturity can appear in someone who's younger, in their 20s, and it can appear in someone who's older, who's in their 60s, and sometimes in between, not. The maturity that we're looking for is someone who has basically been willing to walk into their own pain, and walk into their pain in such a way that they discover something new. Not just keep cycling their pain, but who are willing to walk into their pain and be broken open. There's a Kabbalistic saying that says only the brokenhearted can receive God. The brokenheartedness that we're talking about is the willingness to transform. Because that's really what healing is about. Many people want to heal, but they don't want to transform. They don't want to change. What they want is life to change. They want their situations to change. They want their circumstances to change. Now, we all have some of that in us, of course. But fundamentally, what we're looking for is a human being who understands on some level that in order to heal, they have to be willing to change. They have to be willing to change their sense of who they are, and they have the willingness to go through that journey, the willingness to discover who they are, the willingness to walk into the fire, if you will, and who are ready to do that, who feel the calling inside of themselves to do that, who recognize that the way that they are in their life doesn't work for them anymore. So to a certain extent, they reach a place where they know that what they're doing doesn't work for them, and they know that there must be some other answer. They don't necessarily know what that answer is, but they're really seeking something that isn't about just another path of purification, or just another path where they straighten up and act right, just another path of self-improvement, just another path of making themselves more something. And they're ready to say, I want to find another way. I want to find another way in which I can break open, change, move more into life.